I'm going to go through it with two situations. One for the current car that you have, and then a second situation for if you were to buy the new car. Sorry, my camera work is a little shaky, but bear with me. Okay, it says you're driving 250 miles per week, and then it also says you get 20 miles per gallon. Again, this is with the current car, and the gas costs $2.50 a gallon. So looking at that top line, using unit analysis, sorry about the glare in the back there, using unit analysis, which is what we learned in chapter 2 and a little bit in chapter 3, we want all these units to cancel so we can find a cost. So we want to know maybe what the cost is per week. So what I'm going to do is I see I have miles per week, okay, and then I have miles per gallon. I could flip this if I wanted to, or I could flip this. But since I'm looking for, I could also flip this one too. Since I want my units to be in a certain cost per week, I'm going to make sure the cost stays on top. So I know this kind of column has to stay the same. And I know that I want the weeks on bottom. So I know this column has to stay the same. So the only one I can flip is this one in the middle. So instead of saying I get 20 miles per gallon, I can say, okay, 1 gallon, sorry, I know this camera work is not ideal. 1 gallon of gas will give me 20 miles. Then I can go through and use unit analysis to cancel miles with miles and gallons and gallons. Remember, if they're on top and on the bottom, they're allowed to cancel. So that's what I did. Now I end up with cost per week. So I'm going to let you do the math there. Multiply across the top, get a number. Multiply across the bottom, you're going to get 20, and divide it. That will give you the cost per week to drive your current car. Okay, the cost per week to drive your current car. You're going to have to take that number and multiply it. That's a multiply symbol times 52. And that will give you a cost per year. And then you're going to have to take that number, I know this is a lot of math, and multiply it by 5 years. Because the question, remember, is asking us, okay, what is the cost for this car for 5 years? So that will be that will tell you about what the cost of your gas is for driving your current car for 5 years. And that's great. But then we have to factor in more information. And feel free to pause this video at any time to try to do the math and get caught up with me. Then we have to look at more information. They told us that insurance costs $600 per year. So we're going to have to take that number and multiply it by 5. And that will give you $3,000. So when you drive a car, not only does it cost you money with gas, right? You have to actually fuel the car so it can drive, but you also have to pay insurance on the car. So that number will be the cost for the insurance for 5 total years. And then assuming this is an old car, which in the problem it seemed like it was, they said, okay, well, I'm going to spend $1,600 in repairs every year. That's a lot of money. If you're spending $1,600 in repairs every year, but you want to know the cost for 5 years, you're going to have to multiply that by 5, and you'll get $8,000. So you need to add the cost of gas, that's this whole thing on the top, for 5 years, plus the cost of insurance for 5 years, plus the cost of repair for 5 years, and you'll get a total number. I'm going to let you do that math by yourself, just so I'm not kind of giving away the whole problem. But then you're going to have to take that number and compare it to the new car. Okay, I'm using the same exact information that I used for the other car in the top, but instead of getting 20 miles for every gallon of gas I put in, with the new car, I'm getting 46 miles for every gallon I put in. So in this one, you'll still multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, and then divide that final number. That will tell you, again, your cost per week. But then you're going to have to multiply that by 52 to find out the cost for 1 year. And then you're going to have to multiply that by 5 to find out the cost for 5 years. But then with this car, your insurance is more expensive, right? They tell you your insurance costs $1,000 per year. You're going to have to multiply that by 5 years, and that's easy math. That gives you $5,000. But then with this new car, right, you have to buy it. and that's going to cost you $19,000 to purchase the new car. So with this car, you're going to have to add the cost for all of the gas for 5 years. Plus you're going to have to add the cost for the insurance. Plus you're going to have to add the cost to actually buy the new car. So there are no repairs, we're assuming, on this one because you're buying a brand new car and that shouldn't need any repairs in the first 5 years. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions.